Taoiseach, under this government, you know that house prices have soared. You also know that home ownership are falling. For too many, buying a home is simply unaffordable in this state. When Darragh O'Brien took office as Minister for Housing, he said that one of his key objectives was to deliver affordable homes for people and families to purchase, to give hope back to young people so that they can aspire to own their own family home. They were his words. He talked a big game. But the question is, what is affordable in the eyes of the Minister, or indeed you, Taoiseach? In October 2020, Dublin City Councillors voted down a controversial deal to sell public land at Oscar Traynor Road to a private developer. The deal was rejected because it would make it impossible to deliver affordable homes for working people to buy. Sinn Féin had long campaigned for the government to fund Dublin City Council to deliver affordable and social homes on this very site. But Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael governments refused to provide the funding. Instead, you wanted the public land sold to the developer, which we warned you would lead to unaffordable prices and rip-off rents. When the vote came, Fine Gael, as they do, supported it, Sinn Féin opposed it, and your party was split down the middle, with 4 councillors voting against it. In desperation, the government leaned on Dublin City Council, and a promise was made that 3-bedroom homes would be sold for between €250,000 to €306,000. Fianna Fáil got in line and supported the bad deal, and the land was sold. So fast forward to today, Taoiseach, 2024, and this week, Dublin City Council announced the prices what this government describes as affordable homes in Oscar Traynor Road will be sold for. €400,000 is the lowest cost that people will pay for a 3-bedroom home. It will go up to €475,000. €309,000 is what people will pay up to for a 1-bedroom home in Oscar Traynor Road in Coolock. And you call this your affordable housing scheme. It is bonkers. This is the Minister and the government's idea of affordability. It is astonishing that people will be wondering if you're living in a parallel universe, Minister. Because the question is, how out of touch can you get if you think that these prices are affordable? How can anybody stand over a scheme that offers a 3-bedroom home for prices between €400,000 and €475,000 and call it affordable? We warned you that this plan would lead to homes that were unaffordable, that were out of reach of ordinary people, and we were right. But Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil refused to listen and to look at now where we are today. We now have the ludicrous result of what was promised as affordable homes on state-owned land in the state being now sold for up to €475,000. And the people in Coolock, and I know many of them, who are desperate to buy a home in the communities that they were born in for a future for themselves and their families, are now looking to develop in their backyard that they can never aspire to own a home in. So, Taoiseach, the question to you is, do you believe that €475,000 for a 3-bedroom home in Coolock is affordable? A very simple question. Do you regret your support for this deal? Do you accept that this was not only a bad deal for people who want affordable homes, but a terrible deal for the taxpayer? And will you now stop your policy of gifting public land to developers and support councils and approved housing bodies delivering real affordable homes on public land?
Ní ein tíim an écha leis an hachsa agus nílan méid a dúirt sé crín nó ní sé mechánta, tá sé mí mechánta. Agus is léir go bhfuil aspa policy de fortí Sinn Féin I ggóthaics cuasaí tíochta. Bhí sé bheith gcuine annachhuid scéimeanna in Oscar Traynor agus le fada na blianta. You were against the building of houses in Oscar Traynor for well over a decade. And the bottom line in your presentation, it's interesting, you omitted to say that the scheme that was approved by Dublin City Council, first of all, meant for 20% affordable, 40% social, and 40% cost rental. So of the 853, you're talking about 20% affordable, 40% social, 40% cost rental. Why didn't you mention the 40% social? Why didn't you mention the 40% cost rental? But let's take the advertised prices and let's take your figures of 400,000. The advertised prices are 264,000 for a 1-bed, 356,000 for a 2-bed, and 399 for a 3-bed home. Now those prices are 100,000 lower than the market price at the moment. Just bear that in mind, because of schemes that the government introduced to support providers. But let's go further. Let's take the first home scheme which you opposed, the shared equity scheme. Anyone purchasing that can get up to 100,000. They can get up to 100,000, which brings the price and the affordability down to 300,000. They can then get 30,000 euros in terms of the Help to Buy. So you're looking at a much reduced price in respect of what's been presented by the Deputy. And again, they're the first houses that are coming on scene on that particular scheme. There's 40% social and there's 40% cost rental. And the cost rentals are 25% below market value. Now, that site was left vacant for decades. It was a scandal that site was left vacant. In my view, because of ideologically driven policies by Sinn Féin and by others, objecting serially all of the time. And the point I would make is this: Sinn Féin's equity scheme, for example, it's interesting because home ownership matters and we believe in home ownership. We didn't believe that the site should be 100% social, which you did. We didn't believe in that. We don't believe in 100% social scheme. We believe there should be a balance, and we believe home ownership matters. Your schemes, in many respects, given the cap of 80,000 on your shared equity scheme, for example, you could never own a house if you're a guard, married to a nurse or whatever like that. That's a fact. You put an 80,000 cap on it, and you would get rid of the shared equity scheme, and you get rid of the first home scheme. And that's the bottom line.
Deputy Doherty.
Well, look, the answer is you are living in a parallel universe, and you actually don't even know your own housing policy. You stood there and tried to justify it, and I understand your dilemma, because you asked you a simple question. Do you believe that the houses that you are delivering in Oscar Traynor Road, which is entry price €400,000 for a 3-bedroom house, and it goes up to 475, is affordable? You can't answer that simple question, because you know that to say yes is absolutely daft, and you know to say no shows up that you are completely failing ordinary people. So what do? You mislead the doll. You suggest that you can use the first home scheme to reduce the price by 100,000. You cannot do that. The problem here is this: your policy is about gifting public land to private developer. This scheme should be 100% affordable. Social housing and affordable homes. Now, I ask you the question very simply: is €400,000 affordable for a 3-bedroom home in Coolock, in your view? And it goes up to 475. It could have been affordable. Coolock this month has delivered 3-bedroom affordable purchase homes in Ballymun at purchase prices of 264 to 295,000. Why? Because it's not for profit, because the land was kept public, because the right thing was done. Your policy is pushing up prices beyond the reach of anybody. So just answer one question. Do you believe that the advertised price of €400,000 is affordable for a family purchasing a 3-bedroom home in Coolock? That's a simple question.
400,000. That's the point. It's 100,000 already below market value. And when someone buys that house, they're in a house. They will have acquired a house for 100,000 below the market value. They will have availed of schemes that will increase their capacity to afford that house by about 130,000 if you go the full distance on the first home scheme, and if you take the Help to Buy of 30,000. You didn't mention once, Deputy, through the Chair, you didn't mention once the Help to Buy scheme. You've opposed it from day one. That would benefit anybody buying an affordable house. And you have never supported development in Oscar Traynor. And you're obfuscating and you're prevaricating. You won't accept the basic fact that the schemes the government have brought in through the first home scheme and through the Help to Buy scheme significantly improve an individual or a couple's capacity to make a house affordable, in this case from about 400,000 to 270,000 in terms of the amount that a person would have to pay out. And that is something I think significant. And that covers right across the board.
Deputy.
But you would get rid of those schemes. You would get rid of those schemes if you went into government. And any first-time buyer out there needs to be aware that Sinn Féin would undermine their capacity to buy houses into the future by getting rid of Help to Buy and by getting rid of the first home scheme. Because you don't believe in home ownership. Deputy O'Brien, you don't believe in home ownership. Tell the truth. You don't believe in home ownership.
You're bringing in charade. Please. Deputy
Deputy O'Brien. Deputy O'Brien. Deputy O'Brien. You're letting yourself down. You're letting yourself down, sir. Now, this is now. We don't need anything from the government side. We want an end to your strategic heckling, please. Let's conduct ourselves with a bit of decorum. Deputy Jed Nash, resume your seat. Resume your seat. No, there's no points of order on leaders' questions. Resume your seat. No, resume your seat. Resume your seat. Resume your seat.
That's fine. But I would like to know at some stage after leaders' questions, when the Taoiseach deliberately misleads the House, what
do not accuse
opposition has.
Do not accuse a colleague of deliberately.
Oh, I am accusing him. I am absolutely fully accusing him of deliberately.
The way that should be done. The way that should be done, if you wish to go down that road, is by way of formal motion, not by way of accusation on the floor of the House. So if you have a motion you want to table, table the motion. Now, please, we're going to hear Deputy Nash. Deputy Nash, please. I tell you what, if there's sorry, excuse me. I will suspend the House if this continues. I'll suspend the House. Please don't make me do that. Deputy Nash, please.